Okay, we are live for Conspiracy Theory Sunday, and I put a little caveat on the tag to let you guys know that if you're over 40 years old, you might have a really difficult time with this because it will shake up your paradigm. I have found that people that don't remember this event so much don't have as much of a problem with reframing their whole thought process about it. But we'll get there in just a minute. We're going through Ecclesiastes 9 and 10, but I'm going to intro the first few verses of Ecclesiastes, and then it'll take me about 5 minutes, and then we'll get to what everybody's waiting on is the conspiracy theory of this part. Okay, but I can't help myself. You guys know I love a good conspiracy theory, and I guess got to tell you. I got to tell you what it's about. So let's just start in chapter 9, verse 1. For I considered all this in my heart so that I could declare it all, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God. People know neither love nor hatred by anything they see before them. All things come alike to all. One event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good, the clean, and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. And as is the good, so is the sinner. He who takes an oath, as he who fears an oath. There is an evil that is done under the sun, that one thing happens to all. Truly the hearts of the sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that, they go to the dead. So he's basically saying um, good, good and bad things happen to both good and bad people. Like the same thing happens to them all. Rain falls on the just and unjust is basically what they're saying. Is like they always run it at some point with.
So loud.
I know he's so cute. So here's the comment. Death or the fear of death brings out the best and worst of people. When death comes to a family, it doesn't create problems, it reveals them. And this is one thing that a lot of people have seen. I know I have seen because I've heard so many stories in salons. You hear people's family stories all the time doing hair. And when somebody dies, oh my goodness gracious, once in a while there's a story where it's not just horrible, but almost all the time there's somebody in the family, at least one, if not two or three or four, that make things awful for the family. And when somebody, trying to argue over who gets what or whatever, it's like, but the ugly comes out when somebody dies. It really does. And the ugly was already there, that's the point, is that it was already there. It just reveals it, shines a light on it. Verse 4, but for him who is joined to all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. So here's the comment. For the Christian, we worship a living Savior, and our death is only a change of location. Verse 6, also their love, their hatred, and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. Go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. Proverbs 15:17 says, better is a dinner of herbs where there is love than a fatted calf with hatred. And man, that is so true. It's better to have, some versions say, a dinner of vegetables, where there is love, than a fatted calf where there is hatred. I know I would vote for that. Verse 8, let your garments always be white, and let your head lack no oil. So what that means, this is the comment. What that means is that white garments and oil were symbols of special occasions. He's saying that we should express joy and thanksgiving every day and not only on special occasions. 9. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life. Don't you love how that's like? All the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun, all your days of vanity. For that is your portion in life, and the labor which you perform under the sun. Nothing.
Just time.
Yeah. Whatever your, so that basically, well, anyway, verse 10. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going.
Nicole quoted that today. Your mom did.
She quoted what, this?
During whatever your hands find to do, do with all your might. During prayer.
Wow. So, for people who may not know or who haven't heard the intro for Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiastes was written by Solomon towards the end of his life, after he had gone apostate. He had let his foreign wives draw him into the worship of idolatry. So he's an older man now, and he's at the end of his life, and he's experienced literally everything. He's denied himself nothing. And so this is his process. And towards the end of the book, he's going to conclude that nothing is worth doing nothing's worth living for except for God and the worship of God. So he will come to that conclusion, but this is the process that he's going through. Okay, now verse 11 is the one that I have teased everybody with this whole week, to say this is what the conspiracy night is about. And if you guys know or don't know, and I was kind of surprised that nobody knew, but that's okay. I know I'm a weirdo. I'm the one in the room who knows this.
Look, I had a feeling it was going to be about this verse, but I didn't know what. And then there's one other that I was like, maybe it's this, but
okay.
I was wrong. I already asked you.
So I don't know. It's hard for me to tell. I think it's because I have the do not disturb on here, so it's hard for me to tell how many people are even watching right now. But I do have 2 video clips, but we're gonna have to show it on the TV. I hope it's not too clumsy. It's a little clumsy, but it just is what it is. So here's the verse. Verse 11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. So we're going to watch this first 20-second video, and then I'm going to explain. Give us just a second to turn this around, and I'm going to turn this light off so we can see it better. Yeah. Wow. Go ahead.
The peaceful transfer of authority is rare in history. As I began, with a simple oath, we affirm old traditions and make new beginnings. The American story, a story of flawed and fallible people. Many in our country do not know the pain of poverty.
Whoops.
I didn't know that. You didn't know this?
All right. So he quoted this, and let me just say that this was my personal, and I don't know how to escape the algorithms tonight. It's just going to be what it is, okay? But this is my personal red pill moment of, okay, everything in history is a lie. Okay, this is my personal. At the time, I was always reading books and going into history and learning things about, esoteric studies and that kind of thing, and the occult. And I went to the Lord many times and to make sure I wasn't off track, and he assured me that I wasn't, that I was doing what he called me to do. And I kept seeing things that were about 9/11. But honestly, I ignored it until I read, because I wasn't interested in it. I was like, okay, it's kind of like how I now feel about the flat earth thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just don't have time or the energy for it. But when I saw what I'm about to show you tonight, that's when it was like cold water went all over me. And because I don't know that I've heard anybody else say this is exactly. So we see that he quotes part of Ecclesiastes, but the second part of the verse is not what he said. Okay, so the verse is, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. And then it goes, nor the bread to the wise, or the riches to men of understanding. What he said was that we know there's an angel that rides this whirlwind and directs this storm. And when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's Ecclesiastes, but that's not what it said. So I got my Bible out and I turned to it. Has anybody realized yet what verse this is?
The whirlwind?
No. I'm going to tell you in a minute about the whirlwind. But the verse,
9/11.
it's 9/11.
Oh.
It's Ecclesiastes 9/11.
Bro, shut up. What?
I didn't think about it.
We're on the edge of the whirlpool.
Oh, it just gets deeper than that. But it was, I don't know that I've heard anybody else point that out, to be honest. It was just my own like revelation after I'd been ignoring everything else about 9/11. And when I was like, wait a minute, that's from Ecclesiastes. And I looked it up. And when I saw that it was Ecclesiastes 9/11, that's when I literally felt like cold water went all over me. And I was like, wait a minute. Because there's more to explain here. Number one, let me explain what the angel in the whirlwind is. The angel in the whirlwind for basically is Lucifer. There's more of a bigger explanation of the esoteric meaning of the angel in the whirlwind, and that goes into like a bastardized version of the book of Enoch, because Enoch not in well, I'm trying to keep it simple, but Enoch is taken up to heaven, okay, in the book of Genesis. But there is, in Freemasonry, they take a lot of these Bible stories and Bible figures and they bastardize it, and they basically take their own take on it. So in the occult version of this story of Enoch, Enoch goes into the whirlwind and becomes what they call Metatron or Lucifer. So I'm not gonna get too sidetracked on that because we have a lot more to talk about.
Metatron is crazy.
I know, but that is what it is. That is what it is.
Metatron.
Right, but I know, but it is, the angel in the whirlwind is Lucifer. So I'm going to propose to you that, and that is a very known phrase inside these esoteric occult circles, but not ever spoken in public until Bush Jr.'s first inaugural speech. Okay, that's his inauguration speech. Okay, so that was his inaugural speech. Yes, that was his inaugural speech before 9/11 happened, okay? His very first inaugural speech. And so basically calling something out, if you know anything about the occult, is summoning. He is signaling to other adepts who would know this term. And he's also summoning the angel in the whirlwind by saying it out loud. And he says it twice in his speech. He says it one other time later. This is towards the end of the speech, that little clip. But yeah, I was the one, I knew that he referenced this and the angel in the whirlwind, and I'm sure somebody else has picked it up, but it was when I was like, wait a minute, that's Ecclesiastes. And when I saw it was 9/11, I was like, because this, let me just tell you, there's more. All right. So in Masonry, in Freemasonry, there are 3 master numbers. Basically, I'm giving you a short snippet. All of these subjects are way bigger than this, and there's different brands of it, so nobody come at me. But this is basics. The basic master numbers of Freemasonry are 11, 22, and 33. Those are when they graduate through their levels, 11, 22, and 33. 11 is a number that means a vision, like the creation of a vision of something. The number 22 is the action on the vision, and 33 would be the accomplishment of it. So basically, like the top of that pyramid. You guys have seen on the back of your dollar bill, that pyramid and the eye on the top would be like the 33. Okay, so that's like the top of the pyramid, is the accomplishment of it.
So master numbers means like, when you say master numbers, what do you mean?
Like a black belt in karate, like different belts.
Okay.
Yeah, different belts. They graduate into different ranks.
Okay.
Ranks. There you go. So, so I'll put that in there. So there are many, and I didn't, y'all. There's so much more than this that I could have put in, and I'm trying to keep it under a certain time limit. Okay. But there were so many 11s that happened on 9/11, not the least of which you guys in this room were probably alive but young. And so you probably don't remember it like the adults my age remember it. Like we remember it, So number one, you had everybody in New York City dialing 911. 911, 911. You had all of that in New York City, people dialing 911. That is by design. That is for the purpose of, again, concentrate. These are occult teachings. This is not the way. This is obviously not Christian.
Everybody to say the same thing
Yes.
together, like
yes, getting
say it online.
Yes, getting everyone to say things at the same time and to focus their energy on the same numbers. Now, numerology is a very big deal in the occult circles. It's not, the numbers mean thing in the Bible. They can signal things, but it's not like you hang your faith on it in
and that's
Christian.
Why everyone's into angel numbers.
Yes, yeah, and that's why everyone's into angel numbers. Yes. So here are a list, and I'm not going to list them all, but here's the list of how many 11s are present in the attack of 9/11. Okay, I'm not going to read them all, but the attack on the World Trade Centers in New York occurred on September 11th, 2001. American Airlines flight number 11 was the first to be hijacked. Flight 11 call numbers were AA11. Okay, that was the call numbers, AA11. American airline number, and it lists out 800 number. You have to know something about gematria, and I'm not going to go through all that. You just have to take my word for it right now. But it equals 11. It reduces to the number 11, the 800 number for American Airlines. The emergency telephone number, we just said that, is 911. Manhattan Island was discovered on September 11th, 1609 by Henry Hudson, and there's 11 letters in his name, Henry Hudson. And by the way, Flight 11 had 11 crew members on it also. The state of New York was the 11th state added to the Union. September 11th is the 254th day of the year. 2 plus 5 plus 4 reduces to 11. After September 11th, there are 111 days left to the end of the year. Exactly 1 year after the 9/11 attacks, the winning numbers drawn in the New York State Lottery for September 11th of 2002 were 911. This lottery called Numbers and was broadcast live on television on the first anniversary. On the morning of September 11, 2002, did I already say this? The names of 2,801 victims were read at Ground Zero. That also reduces to 11. The World Trade Center, the Twin Towers, standing side by side, forms the number 11. Each of the Twin Towers of the New York's Trade Center has 110 stories and were among the 10 tallest buildings in the world. So you can see the 11 in there. The Trade Center has 11 letters. Skyscrapers, 11 letters. New York City, 11 letters. Pentagon, 11 letters. Afghanistan, 11 letters. Ramzi Youssef, 11 letters. And I forget who that guy is. But also George W. Bush is 11 letters. 119 is the area code for Iraq and Iran, and it also reduces to 11. Muhammad, the prophet of the Muslim faith, died in 632 AD, which reduces to 11. Muhammad's birth is celebrated on the 11th day of the 9th month.
Get out of town.
Fatalities on the aircrafts, excluding the hijackers, included 76 passengers and 11 crew members aboard American Airlines Flight 11. 49 passengers and 11 crew members aboard the United Airlines Flight 175, 53 passengers and 6 crew members on American Airlines Flight 77. There's also a lot of 77s. I just didn't put it all in here.
Right.
And 33 passengers and 7 crew members aboard United Airlines Flight 93. The Twin Towers, 11. Flight 11. September 11th equals 33. And the Brotherhood of Freemasonry, 33 is the highest obtainable degree. George is a member of Skull and Bones, a spinoff of the Brotherhood. That's another occult. It's kind of the Brotherhood is kind of Illuminati type thing. July 6, 1946 was George Bush's birthday, and it can be reduced to the power number 33. George W. Bush, 11 letters, said that a while ago. Adolf Hitler, 11 letters. World War I and World War II, 11 letters. Films and television programs produced before 2001 that feature the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center or events similar to 9/11 were edited in re-airings on the television shortly after the attacks. One such example is an episode of The Simpsons. A lot of us have seen that. The City of New York versus Homer Simpson, which originally aired on September 21st, 1997. The main setting is the World Trade Center. This is a scene in the episode where Bart Simpson is holding up a newspaper with the image of the Twin Towers and the number 9. So it basically says 9/11. The New York-based band Dream Theater released a live album titled Live Scenes from New York on September 11, 2001, on the same day as the Trade Center attacks. The cover art depicted the Manhattan skyline, included the World Trade Center towers in flames. It was immediately recalled and the artwork altered. It was released on that day. The music video for a song called Piece by Piece by British band Feeder was also changed. The original video depicted animated characters of the band playing in a New York skyscraper and the World Trade Center in the background and planes flying nearby. In the video, the band was portrayed jumping from the window of the building. It was just,
Yeah.
Ground is broken on the first day of the construction of the United States Pentagon building on September 11th, 1941. The Pentagon includes a 5-acre central plaza, which is shaped like a pentagon and informally known as Ground Zero, a nickname originating from the Cold War. If I remember right, and like I said, y'all, there's so many of these that I did not hunt down because it's just too much to do in one night. But I think that the Pentagon is on the 33rd latitude, I think. On September 11th, exactly 60 years after the building's groundbreaking, the hijacked American Airlines Flight 77, a Boeing 757-223, was crashed into the western side of the Pentagon. The coordinates of the Pentagon building, it's 77. The coordinates of the Pentagon building is 38 degrees, something, and 77 it's the 77. There's also a lot of 77s. Like I said, I just didn't hunt them all down.
This is really giving present day vibes.
It's getting present day vibes. And so when you start looking at it, and this is such a tiny tip of the iceberg. We're not going to cover even a fraction.
Like how they put things out like before it happened,
Yeah.
and like the day of, like the most recent thing, assassination attempt for Trump. Caroline Leavitt was live. She's like, it's gonna be, typical Trump. There'll be shots fired in his speech, and then later on,
There's shots fired.
She was telling everybody.
Because let me explain to everybody that. So I hope everyone just heard what you said. According to occult doctrine, if anyone who's practicing witchcraft is summoning something to send out, it is according to their own doctrine. They must tell the victim somehow, some way, what they're doing in order to not get the blowback of what they're summoning. That's their understanding. So they can do it in subtle ways. They can do it like that, like you said. Oh, there's going to be shots fired, ha ha ha. Or they can do it through music, through television, through bands. They can do it through any subtle ways, as long as somehow or another they announce it to the victim. And in in their mindset, if they announce it to you, it's on you. Like I told you. So it's on you, because I told you it was going to happen.
Is that how it works too? Like that's like for like big things, but like even if you were interacting with somebody from the occult, maybe you didn't know, is that also a thing?
Yes.
Like on a smaller level?
Yes, it is a thing on a smaller level. Yes.
I wasn't sure.
Yes, you are correct. So before I forget, also Bush Sr., George H. Bush Sr., I think I have it somewhere in here, but he announced to a joint session of Congress, the first time he ever spoke the words publicly, New World Order. He announced the New World Order was on September 11th, 1990, exactly 11 years to the day before the September 11th attacks. Right. So he announces the New World Order. That is the announcement of the dark vision. Then there's the enactment of it. Bruh. So, it's my fault I gave them ice cream earlier. Sorry.
Becky's just...
Yeah, I didn't give Beckett any ice cream. He's just always like that. So, speaking of Freemasonry, anyone who knows anything about Masonic lodges and rituals, they act out a lot. They act out plays. The reason they're acting out plays, it's not, it seems boring, I know, to a lot of the guys who are in there who don't understand what it's about, but they're acting out things for a purpose, because they're walking through certain rituals. And there's maybe guys in there who don't understand what the meaning of it is, but there's a reason why they're doing it.
At what point do you think they start to clue in on meetings?
Supposedly by the 33rd degree they know. But I
nothing before that, you don't think they really know what's going on?
I suspect by the 32nd degree they know. But I'll tell you about that. I'll tell you why.
Sooner than that. I'm sorry. It's crazy.
What I've heard is that you can only get to 33 by invitation only, and that's when they say, by the way, our God is Lucifer, is in the 33rd degree. That's my understanding, but I'm sure, who knows, because it's all secret, right? We're going on what we can find. But my understanding too is that the 32nd degree is something that you're like born into it by bloodline. If you're 32nd degree. So I don't know. I've heard different things, but I get kind of exacerbated with all of it, because I don't know, it just goes, mythologies and stuff, they go on and on forever. The occult knowledge goes on and on forever, and it really is meaningless and vanity and chasing after wind. And the word of the Lord dispels all of it. And so I get kind of exacerbated with that. But so anyway, let's go on. So I'm going to propose to you, and this is not my idea. I got it from someone else, okay? But I propose to you that this entire event of September 11th is a reenactment of a mythology called the 11th labor of Hercules. So let's look at the 11th labor of Hercules. I tried to find a shorter summary, and not a longer summary, but a shorter one. For the 11th labor, Hercules had to fetch the golden apples of Hesperides. Now, New York is the Big Apple.
Yeah.
Okay? The Hesperides, the daughters of the evening star. So we know that in Freemasonry you have the female branch, which is the Eastern Star. The Eastern Stars, the women belong to the Eastern Star, were the daughters of the Titan Atlas and Hesperus, the evening star. How many daughters there were really depend on the author. Some said 3, 4, or 7. They cared for a grove of trees that bore golden fruit. The trees were guarded by a serpent or dragon with 100 heads known as Ladon. Now, I'm explaining this as we go through, because if you guys remember, the big villain that was identified on 9/11 was bin Laden. Bin means son of Laden. So Laden, Laden is spelled the same. Yeah. Laden, who is the offspring of Typhon and Echidna. I just put that in there because it was in the article, that picture. On his journey at the Caucasus Mountains, he killed the Caucasus eagle. Okay, now, and the American emblem is the eagle. That fed on Prometheus's liver and freed the Titan from his bonds. Prometheus told him that the tree and apples were guarded by Ladon, a dragon or serpent. The Titan advised him to let his brother Atlas fetch the apples to avoid Ladon. In another version of the story, this is longer, by the way. I just clipped out the part that is, relevant. In another version of the story, Hercules actually went into the garden of Hesperides and killed bin Laden. That is the 11th labor of Hercules. Been around for a long time. And by the way, in case you guys didn't know, Mariah's over here. She's like, I already knew it. But in case you guys didn't already know, bin Laden was actually trained by the United States of America. The CIA. He was a CIA asset. He was trained by the United States earlier on to, when I think it was against Russia over in somewhere. Anyway, I forget all the details of when he was trained, but he was trained by United States of America. That's just a fact. All right, so we're going to talk about these pillars of Freemasonry. Now, like I said a while ago, Freemasonry borrows images and stories and names from the Bible. Because anyone who knows, they know that you have the Masonic Bible that they have on the altar of the Masonic Temple, and they put the square and compass on top of it, which, by the way, is a symbol of authority. So they are basically saying that in any artwork that is Freemason, that's a masonry artwork, you'll see that the all-seeing eye is at the top. And what that means is it's above authority, above what is underneath it. So for them to have the square and compass on top of the Bible is asserting authority over the Bible. Now, in their Bible, they have a glossary. I've seen one before. I've rifled through one before, and it's a Bible, but they have a glossary of terms where they redefine all these terms. And if you redefine all the words, you come up with a whole different story. So there's a reason for all of that. Now, yes. So in these temples, one thing that you find is in Solomon's temple, there were 2 pillars at the front called Jacob and Boaz. And so you have these two pillars, Jacob and Boaz, that you walk through. When people would walk into the Masonic temple, they're passing through the pillars, and they leave, and they're passing into a sacred space, leaving the arcane behind and walking into an ascended sacred space. So on 9/11, which the towers looked like the number of 11, the planes passed through the towers. There was a passing through of the pillars, symbolically acted out. So, and just because we're on here, we're talking about it, the checkerboard floor, the black and white, a lot of people have problems with these secret fraternities, whether it's the Shriners or whatever, because like, and me too. I have relatives too that have belonged to lodges, and I'm not. Please understand that I'm not saying that every single person, because I don't believe that, is involved in some kind of evil thing. I do believe it's a smaller inner circle that understands and knows and is involved in like a more dark thing going on, right? So, but the it's like, oh, they do so much good. They're, the Shriners have the hospital and they do all this good, and they're, these secret fraternities, they do all this good stuff. True. What the black and white floor means is, it means that it's a balance. They believe they're supposed to balance the dark, the good and the evil. Yeah. That all the good works are supposed to balance out the evil.
Like a yin yang too.
Like a yin yang. And that is why the idol is the Baphomet. They worship the Baphomet, and you see that in the Baphomet is I guess you call it a hermaphrodite. It's like the thing. Why can't I think of the name? It's male and female. It's both male and female. So it's the do what?
You were correct.
Yes. So it's the merging together of the two sexes. It's the Baphomet has a phallus and breast and all that stuff. So it's both. And so when the two towers, if you guys remember, when they rebuilt the towers, what did they do? But they built one instead of two.
People are crazy.
So it's the merging. So the two were taken down, and then they rebuilt with one. And that's the whole, it goes into ideas of alchemy, and there's all kind of things, all kind of occultic ideas that are merging into all this. So they took the two towers and merged it into one, just like the two sexes, and merged it into the one Baphomet. Okay, so that's why the black and white floor.
They did it.
Anyway.
I'm so lost right now. That little piece.
All right, don't worry about it. The two genders merge into one.
Oh no, I get that, but I was.
That's why
I was talking about.
He's trying to say the right pronouns.
No, I know.
Okay. So, but there's also, but if you think about it, this has also been a very real purposeful plan is to promote the merging of the genders. There's an occult agenda behind that. Okay. So I already said this, is that September 11th, 1990, George H.W. Bush, sorry, I always forget the names, announces the New World Order in a speech to the joint session of Congress. I said that. Okay. Now, this is what we looked at a while ago. George W. Bush's first inauguration took place on January 20th, 2001, in his speech that says, after the Declaration of Independence was signed, Virginia statesman John Page wrote to Thomas Jefferson, "We know the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong. Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm?" That was on January 20th, 2001. 33 weeks later is the event of 9/11. After the speech. And after the speech and the summoning of the angel in the whirlwind, 33 weeks later was the accomplishment of what they say the New World Order. That was 33 weeks later. Now, I have Dylan queued up this one other thing. Now, you guys, some of y'all remember, and if you don't, you don't.
My pet goat. I'm sorry. Never mind. crazy.
I didn't even go into iPet Goat because, like I said, I'm trying to keep this under a certain time frame. But we'll talk about it in a second.
We
We'll
talked
talk.
about that. We were
crazier
watching
now.
that video for 3 hours.
I'm telling you, but now
We
it's even
did.
crazier. Like, so many things have come to pass. Things about Donald Trump are hidden in that video. We would have never known. I'm telling you, it's wild.
I'm gonna go back. All right, now hold on, because we're gonna watch another. Hold on, before you do it, I'm gonna set it up. For those who remember, when the attack happened, George Bush was in a classroom reading this book to children, and he was just observing the teacher going through these reading words. Okay, so let me have Mariah turn this around and show it. Go ahead. Ready?
And remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steel. What word? Steel. Yes, steel. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steel. Yes, steel. Get ready. Play. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Boys and girls, pick your reader up from under your seat. Open your book up to lesson 60 on page 153.
What in the world, bro?
All right, that was it.
Wow.
At that moment, he was told. What?
That, yeah, at that very moment. Now, if you saw that
Like, that's crazy.
in rituals, there's a chanting of a summoning, and these kids, unbeknownst to themselves, they had them chanting out what they were doing.
Hold on.
Yes.
How did the teacher get that? Like, this is a very odd set of words together. Like, how is this?
There ain't no lesson plan in that one. I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry,
The Secret
but
Service come in and was like, this is what y'all do.
and the
today.
school system is
Probably.
politics.
Yeah.
There's lower
I
levels
don't
that
know.
don't know
Yeah.
anything about it,
I don't.
and there is
Right.
politics.
I
over
mean,
the
just
top.
the AKAs. I was talking about that the other day. That's just a sorority. But they've taken over teaching.
Most of everyone hired is.
Yeah, I don't know the backstory about how it ended up that way, but that's exactly what they were doing.
I
Is
noticed-
having the children chant out the ritual.
It's more like, the president's coming to your class. Aren't you excited?
I was like,
Yeah.
so one of the sorority days, like they all the people in the one sorority took a picture, and this was their symbol. Was this? I was like,
Oh, that's AK.
which or no,
I
it was
think.
the blue one.
Oh,
I
no, but I've
forget,
seen my.
But I was
people
like,
do
that's
this.
like the
Yeah,
like the Baphomet,
satanic,
like a
yeah.
like a devil. I was like,
Yeah.
I asked my coworker, I was like, what's y'all's? And she looked at me and B and was like,
Oh, you're kidding.
I was like, you're joking.
Yeah.
She's like, and that's theirs.
Okay, that's a
Yep.
whole other
I'm
thing.
telling you, they
Anything.
have symbols.
Let me
Like,
just say this. Anything secret. Listen. Anything secret that is in secrecy is not of God.
Yeah.
God does not work that way. Satan works that way, and the reason he does is because as soon as he's discovered, all it takes is the weakest Christian's prayer to destroy it. That's why Satan has to work in stealth mode. Now that should give all of us confidence of knowing that because we obviously it's Christ, right? I mean, but it's crazy to me. Anybody who's ever done any sort of like spiritual warfare ministry, especially in ministry and that kind of thing, even the weakest Christian, I've seen it. Those demons flee, because if Jesus is there with somebody, they cannot stand. They run so fast. So that's why Satan has to do all of these antics and, somehow or another arrange for these kids to be chanting this stuff and, spend years having all of this all laid out exactly right. And believe me when I say they've been doing rituals all leading up to it. This is not just so. Speaking of rituals, this attack was a ritual to summon something in this nation. And there was blood spilled, as all rituals that summon something require the spillage of blood. And I'm sorry if that is hard to hear, and it was hard to hear for me. And after I realized, the day that I realized the truth, and like I said, this is such a small portion of all of the synchronicity around this event. But the day I realized the truth of what happened, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks that I felt really, really like the rug had been pulled out from under me, and I didn't know up from down for about 2 or 3 weeks. It messed me up. I was thinking, wait a minute. It's like all of these things that you learn in school, all of these things you thought everybody, it's like, but George Washington was a Mason and he had like the Masonic apron on, and they, it's like all these things. And my granddad was all the different people that there, all of those things. It's really hard to reconcile our truth, the things that we believed in our life, with the truth when it's presented. It's hard. And that's one of the reasons why, when the Lord, in the parable of the wheat and the tare, when the angels asked the Lord, should we go pull up the tare? And he says, no, if you do it too early, you'll pull up the wheat at the same time. And he said, just let them grow up together, and then at the end, it'll be separated. And so that's kind of a similar kind of circumstance, is that he allows, because we are tender. I mean, it's until we're mature enough to understand these things and to accept these things, he kind of allows some ignorance. Because it really doesn't matter as far as salvation. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter as far as salvation. But y'all know I couldn't get past this verse without pointing this out. No. I had to point this out. Because it was such a huge event and it has so much to do. And to me, if you understand that event, that is, to me, the keystone for a lot of other things that has happened since then. And if you don't understand that event, then you're lost and confused on a lot of other things since then.
I tried to explain it to my coworker, because I work with 3 people in my classroom, and the gentleman in my classroom, he knows about this stuff, so we talk.
Yeah.
And my friend, who's just a little bit older than me, she can't wrap her head around it. I don't think she believes that it was, obviously an inside thing. She still can't.
So, I'll tell you a couple other facts before we move on, and we are going to get back to actual Ecclesiastes here in a minute. But a couple other facts that I do know that are factual true, this is not a theory, is that it is a known fact that majority of those hijackers were never on those planes at all. The planes, they were still, some of them are still alive today, and they launched a lawsuit against, I think it was the FBI. It was some organization in the United States. I think it was the FBI, for slander, for using their name in these attacks. They actually sued the United States of America because for using their likeness as enemies in this attack. So there's an original flight log that there's a lady, and I'll tell you in a minute about her. There's a lady that was able to get, and she is, she would have the credentials to get it. And these guys were not on there. There's not one Arab name on the original flight logs, not one. So,
you told me about the phone calls. That's one thing I remember too, is that there's no reception high in the sky, so all those phone calls and everything. One of the first things, all the phone calls that they played of people calling and saying goodbye to their loved ones and all this stuff. You can't use cell phones at that altitude. You can't use cell phones it doesn't work.
But when everybody's in, this is a really good example of how trauma affects your mind. When everybody's in a state of fear and trauma, you're just receptive. You're just, whatever the newscaster is telling you, you're believing it because your mind is kind of mush. It goes into this state of just receiving.
Sure,
And so, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, by the way, that the demonic world puts you in a state of fear. So that's why the Lord says over and over, do not fear. Rebuke those jokers, and you better not fear. Because when you're in a state of fear, you're in a state of submission, and you're just receiving the message. And he says, don't do that. Close the door on it. You have authority and power over that through Jesus Christ. So, what else? There's a lady, and I haven't heard from her recently. So I don't know if she said anything crazy in the last few years. So just, I don't know. But she has, I believe, the answer to what exactly happened. And I heard a couple of interviews by her a few years ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she actually figured this out. She was a flight attendant during this time, and her name's Rebecca Roth, Rebecca with a K, Roth, Roth, and she wrote a series of novels that were called Methodical Illusion. The reason she did was because when she was a flight attendant, and she was what they call a purser, so she had a higher rank than a regular flight attendant, meaning that she was in charge. If there was a plane crash, she was in charge of getting people off the plane. So she studied plane crashes a lot. She said for hundreds of hours she had studied plane crashes, exactly where the plane would break apart and where to take people, like in the blackness of black smoke and fire, how to get people off of that plane. So this was her job. So she had spent many, many hours studying plane crashes. So when she saw that day, when they were showing that image over and over and over, she said she thought it was like CGI. She was watching this image and she was like, she's like, I don't understand what this is. She kept thinking it was like CGI because what she knew is that it was not a plane that hit that steel building, because she had studied hundreds of plane crashes, and she's like, that's not what happens. It's like they break apart and fall because they're made of aluminum, because they have to be light in order to fly. They do not slice like hot knife through butter. That is not what happens in a plane crash. So that was the first thing that she was like, something's not right. She didn't know what it was, but she was like, something's not right. So she hung back, and she spent like 10 or 15 years before she said anything in public, gathering information and trying to get together, the information of like the actual flight patterns, eyewitnesses. She gathered a whole lot of evidence, the original flight logs, before she said anything publicly. And so, she did, and so she released it in a fictional novel as a layer of protection, so that she's not really saying what happened. This is just a fictional story about kind of what might have happened, So she basically, because the other thing she knew is that they have these rigid protocols for what to do in a hijacking scenario. And she like, the protocols were not being followed. She's like, not one protocol was happening. She's like, why aren't they doing this? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And she was like, she was so confused. She was like, none of the protocols were being followed for a hijacking scenario. And there were code words in it. Something methodical was part of the code word, the code language of what was supposed to tell, like the people on the ground or whoever, that they were being hijacked. They had code language, and methodical was one of the code words. So she was like, I don't understand what's going on. This is not, she was like, she had like no idea what was going on, but it was not the planes being hijacked and going into these towers. So she put together what I believe, I'm like, and it had nothing to do with anybody from the Middle East. Well, yes, it did, but not the Arabic, not what you think of as the Middle East. So, And, you know, I feel like I'm way out on a limb. I'm trying to think if I want to go further out, if I want to dangle off or not. I don't know. I guess if you're, she basically discovered there's more than one nation that was involved in the conspiracy. The United States being one of them, obviously. And there's one other nation that was involved. There's mainly two. One is the United States, and the other one is another nation that had an interest in attacking Iraq and Iran and going into those. The first thing they did, by the way, when the U.S. troops landed in Iraq, the first thing they did, they went to the museum and they raided the museum. And they took a whole bunch of stuff and they went underneath to the underground where things are secreted away. And there's video that, I don't know if it still exists, but there's video that Tom Horn, before he died, he had video of it. And then his house mysteriously burned down with all of that stuff in it. All of his archives and all those things were in it. But he had video footage of U.S. soldiers going into the underground level of that museum and going through all these boxes and pushing all these things aside that were priceless, solid gold statues and things that were thousands of years old. And whatever they were just not paying any attention, going through these warehouses. They finally find one box, after going through a whole lot, open one box, and you can see on the video that they're kind of like celebrating that, like, oh, we found it. They box it back up and haul that thing out. Don't know what it was. There's lots of theories on what exactly that was, but it was something ancient. It makes you, there's like,
the first thing they did was raid a lot of things like that.
They did.
Giants,
the remains of giants. Yeah. Now, why would they?
That's what you do first. You don't just go in and.
Why are they not worried about the bad guys? You know, it's like, why don't
they have access to what they wanted?
They had access to what they wanted. And they eventually found Bin Laden, the son of the dragon, in the 11th labor of Hercules. And they killed him eventually. So that is the Cliff Notes of a much bigger story.
That's the Cliff Notes.
That's the Cliff Notes. And, you know, it goes
really
on and on.
It
really is the Cliff Notes. But I had to wait. I couldn't get past that verse without saying, let me tell you.
Good.
You know.
My TikTok has really narrowed me down. I saw this video yesterday, and I was like, wait, were giants actually real? and then I go into the comments, and I found my people. They were just
You found your people.
It was just funny.
That I love you so much. I love that you're that person.
It's very niche TikTok now.
My TikTok scared me off of TikTok.
Yeah, he had to.
You can't believe everything you say, everything you see. You know.
I took like 2 years off TikTok, and then I got on it just post 3D printing now. That's all I get. I don't even scroll.
That's so funny. I get it, but just remember two things. One, you truly, conspiracy theories go far and wide, and there's some that are true, and there is a lot that are not. You know what I'm saying? And in the end, when you know Scripture, which is why I'm so passionate about the Bible, that is the only thing that's really, really important, and it's the thing that has the power to destroy all the rest.
Knowing Scripture
all the
is
rest.
what led you to say, wait a second.
Yes, knowing Scripture is what led me to discover the tie-in.
Right.
All right. Was that good? We're going to go back into Ecclesiastes.
I was like, I don't think we're done. There's like 5 pages.
We have a whole other chapter to go through.
All right.
We're almost done with 9.
Yeah. All right. We're in chapter 9, verse 12. Okay. For man also does not know his time, like fish taken in a cruel net. Which I also found that verse ironic following the 9/11 passage, but the irony. Like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in an evil time when it falls suddenly upon them. Well, if that doesn't preach, does that preach? Verse 13, this wisdom I've also seen under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it, besieged it, and built great snares around it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city, yet no one remembered that same poor man. Now the Hebrew there could possibly the Hebrew could possibly be rendered that he could have delivered. So you could read that either way. We don't know for sure. That he either did deliver or he could have delivered the city, but no one paid him any mind. Because he was poor. But he knew, it was like, I can tell you, man. Again, with me, I'm remembering my own confession, and when we were doing Job, I'm like, there's things I want to be I want to be justified so bad with the "I told you so"s. But anyway, I'll be quiet. All right, verse 16. Then I said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. Words of the wise, spoken quietly, should be heard rather than the shout of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. So this is suggesting that a foolish ruler whose word was taken over a poor wise man, and the city was destroyed because of it. An example, one man's sin that brought destruction would have been Adam, of course, one man's sin that brought destruction. David's sin, a couple of times, brought a lot of trouble and death and plague and etc. Absalom's revolt led to civil war and etc. There's many times when, especially when a man is in a position of power, that his sin causes a lot of destruction. Death, so here's still the comment, death is unavoidable and life is unpredictable. Our only option is to yield to God and walk by faith. We don't live by explanations, we live by promises. We went deep with that when we did Job. All right, chapter 10. Is everybody good? Chapter 10. Dead flies putrefy the perfumer's ointment.
It's a tough way to start.
What? It's such a good adjective.
It is a good adjective.
No one says it anymore. Go.
Putrefy.
King James, you go.
Yes. We should start using some of these. You should adopt
Nobody
these
says it
words.
ever.
That's a gross word.
Bring
Are you
putrefied
laughing at me?
back.
Yes. And cause it to give off a foul odor, like a dead fly, one dead fly. It's like a small matter, a small thing that ruins the whole thing. Ew. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honor.
Man, that is so true.
It is so true.
One bad thing.
One bad thing. So here's the comment. Solomon compared a good name to fragrant perfume in Ecclesiastes 7:11. He uses the same imagery here. A little folly can destroy a reputation. You can have a good reputation and then have like a bad, lapse of judgment and ugh.
Man.
Well, I mean, isn't that the same as like your yeast thing?
A little yeast
Yeah.
leavens the whole
batch.
thing.
Ruins the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, ruins the whole
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
Or a dead
I
fly
like how I
in the
like
ointment.
Your yeast thing.
My yeast thing? Do I have an infection? Just
Oh,
not.
You knew what I meant.
No, I knew. But at first I was like,
This is crazy.
do I have all that? I was like, oh, I know what she means.
I was like,
I hope you.
Sorry.
There's some cream at Walgreens for that.
Moving on. This is insane.
Don't get a fly in it.
I said, don't get a fly.
Okay, sorry. I think we just had to lighten the mood after all the 9/11 stuff. All right. A wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart is at his left. Even when a fool walks along the way, he lacks wisdom, and he shows everyone that he is a fool. Okay, so this is the comment. The center of life, or the master control within us that governs us. In the ancient world, the right hand was always the place of power and honor, while the left hand represents weakness and rejection. So that's what that is talking about. It's just that's just the ancient belief system is that right hand was power and honor, left hand was rejection.
Okay, because I was going
weakness and rejection.
To the armor of God, and I was like, wait a second. The right is the sword of the spirit, and the left is the defense. So I'm like, what is this guy just like always being defensive? So he's a fool because he won't.
No, you can't take it too far.
Yeah.
You can't take it too far.
Okay.
It's yeah.
This interpretation
It makes more
is different
sense.
than what I was thinking.
Okay, but while you're looking that up, the word sinister comes from a Latin word that means left. Isn't that interesting? Sinister actually means left. It's just an ancient mindset.
The verse in Ecclesiastes 10:2 in the NIV is the heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left.
Yeah.
We heard something interesting today in a podcast about AI, but they were talking about the brain and how the right side of or the left side of the brain like is narrow and like takes in information like just the straight facts, but the right side conceptualizes all of it and gives it meaning with like beauty and art and music and all, and it actually can see the big picture of everything on the left.
Interesting.
So like if it's only inclined to the left and has no meaning, that's why it's foolish.
Interesting.
I thought we were going to
That's
talk about
interesting.
AI when with this.
Ah.
That's why I was like, is it AI?
Yeah, no.
Good. I won't go
It
into
was
all that
not.
about
It was
AI.
not
It's like
AI. I'm kind of surprised that nobody guessed, but nobody guessed what it was. What it was.
Well, I thought it might be that
I didn't
one,
want to
but-
ruin the surprise for myself.
Did you guess?
It's also not blatant. Let's be
Really?
9/11 is one of your favorite conspiracy theories.
That's
to
why,
talk about.
in the back of my
Wow.
mind, I was like, it's one of your favorite conspiracies. So I was like, it's probably that.
Well,
But I'm like, but how does this connect? I'm not
I just
sure.
didn't know
So, you know,
these
Right.
chapters.
Okay.
But I didn't read ahead on
What?
purpose.
Okay. Okay.
Uh-oh. She's like, you know what I was thinking? Avril Lavigne.
I thought that's what you said, but I was like, there's no way you just said that. My brain was like, nope.
No, no. It's there's no such thing as birds anymore. They're all robots.
Oh my goodness. We're not going into that.
About Avril Lavigne and leave her alone.
Okay, so the rest of the comment says the fool doesn't have wisdom in his heart and gravitates towards evil. That's basically the overall, and gets into trouble. People try to correct him, but he refuses to listen. What?
I thought that's what I was. That's kind of what I was like. Okay, never mind. Go on.
Okay. All right, verse 4. If the spirit of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for consolation pacifies great offenses. There is an evil I've seen under the sun, as an error proceeding from the ruler. Okay. Proverbs 16:32 says, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. So it's basically saying that someone who's in control of his self-control, is better than the one who can actually take a city.
Yeah, that's a good verse.
That is a good verse. Verse 6, folly is set in great dignity, while the rich sit in a lowly place. I have seen servants on horses, while princes walk on the ground like servants. Okay. So Solomon, this is the comment. Solomon's son, Rehoboam, was prideful and unyielding. He listened to his young advisors instead of the elders, and it caused a civil war that divided the kingdom. This is an example of sitting servants on horses and making princes walk the ground. So what Rehoboam did after Solomon died is that because Solomon had put heavy taxes on the people, and the people cried out for tax relief. And so he asked the advisors that were left by his father, by the elder advisors, and they said, you need to free them up of some taxes. You need to lighten the load. But the younger men that were kind of like his buddies, they're like, no, you tax them double and you do this. And they brought the hammer. They was like, you need to bring the hammer down and show them who's boss. And so Rehoboam listened to the younger advisors rather than the older in this situation. And so it caused a civil war. So that's just an example, and it just happened to be Solomon's own son that did that. But it's an example of putting princes, making them walk on the ground, basically recognizing true honor, which is not always recognized by men. True honor, in a person is being able to have enough wisdom to recognize and to recognize when there's a fool in power or there's fools that are in charge. There's a lot of that. Verse 8, he who digs a pit will fall into it, and whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a serpent. Just things to ponder. And he who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it. So, of course, these are truisms, but he's talking about, these are philosophies. He's talking about a bigger picture. There's a deeper meaning to these things. You split wood, it might fall on you, You quarry stone, you break through a wall, it's like there's other ways to apply this to life, bigger philosophies. If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength, but wisdom brings success. So here's the comment. A wise worker will pause and sharpen the axe. Don't work harder, work smarter, is what that verse basically means. 11. A serpent may bite when it is not charmed. The babbler is no different. It's such a crazy verse. That requires sitting and thinking about. There is some truth to that, and it's like,
You kind of have to know how to work a conversation with someone like that.
That's exactly right. You have to know how to navigate a conversation with somebody who's a serpent.
Yeah.
May bite when it's not charmed. Dylan has said before, he's like, "Oh, I'm a snake charmer." I believe that that's probably true. He's got a natural gift at that. As long as it's not ever meant for evil. But here it is. You're validated, Dylan. How about that?
I just thought of so many people.
You just have to know how to talk to them.
So many people. You see
so
that.
Many babblers.
So many babblers. Yeah. Yeah. Same. It's something that we need to. It's really true, and it's not wrong. It's basically saying it's not wrong to navigate how you have to with somebody who's a snake. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool shall swallow him up. The comment, a fool blurts out whatever's on his mind and ends up a victim of his own words, which is true. It's basically like give him enough rope to hang himself. Just let them talk. There's a lot of situations where if you just say nothing and just let them talk, they'll do it themselves. They'll walk into their own trap. So just let them talk. 13. The words of his mouth begin with foolishness, and the end of his talk is raving madness. That's what we just said. A fool also multiplies words, and no man knows what is to be. Who can tell him what will be after him? The comment is Solomon continually mentions that the future is uncertain. Oh, we got a little bit more. I thought we were done. 15. The labor of fools wearies them, for they do not even know how to go to the city. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child and your princes feast in the morning. Okay, so here the comment on this. It's a judgment of God on a nation to be given immature rulers. So let me just read this verse from Isaiah. Okay. Isaiah chapter 3, verses 4 and 5 says, I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. The people will be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child will be insolent toward the elder, and the base toward the honorable. Don't we see that? Don't you look around and see that? The child will be insolent toward the elder, and the base toward the honorable. So this is a comment. Age itself is not a guarantee of spiritual maturity. Age itself is not a guarantee of spiritual maturity. But, okay, the main thing I wanted to say about this in particular is that it is a judgment of God to be given a foolish ruler. So can I just say, please, for the love of everything holy, will Democrats and Republicans and conservatives and liberals stop fighting with each other and repent and turn to God? Because the reason we're in this mess is not because of each other at all. Well, you know what I'm saying. We're not the enemy here.
No.
It's because we've not collectively submitted to God. It is a judgment of God to be given bad rulers. And we have more than one, y'all. It is like all of them. It's like there might be one or two, but I'd be hard pressed to be convinced. Anybody in DC. There might be.
This is a great.
What?
I'm just laughing at how many things we've said in this one video.
I know. Like, I'm just all out
agree.
there.
We can't even get a good school system. And I said that MSCS.
Yeah.
Here. That's why the state had to take over.
I'm going to tag them in the tag.
The state has to take over. You can't even get good people over a school.
Oh, I believe
And
it.
if you think that the state's going to take over, then they just put former board members on that state takeover. So,
you know what
that's
I mean?
why it's all politics.
Like, even at the smallest
It really
level
is
of
politics.
people that should rule wisely and justly, even still,
they don't.
And they
have all power to do it. They're typical people.
Because the corruption goes all the way to the top. So at the end of the day, you don't have any, like, who do you go to? You can't go over their heads. They're corrupt too. I mean, it's like, exactly. What do you do?
You bear it, like it said earlier. And you control yourself, and eventually they hang themselves.
And you charm snakes, I guess. And I don't know.
Yes.
That's what I was telling you. Well, all right. Let me keep my mouth shut.
All right, so here's the comment. The suggestion in the verse speaks of a servant who became king with the help of his friends and is now obligated to give them all jobs to remain in power. These hirelings could not be dismissed because the king's security depended on them. And then I put a picture in here of an example. Of this guy and a bunch of powerful people who are entrapped by their own, because they, by evil means, got into a position of power. All their friends have evil things on them, and so they can't fire one another or arrest one another because they're.
We did, everything would fall apart.
It would all fall apart.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I'm afraid to say it. I feel like if it did, and believe me, I'm with you. If
track my IP address.
Well, if it burned.
Sorry, go ahead.
If they all suddenly arrested themselves and Washington D.C. was all thrown in jail today, what do you think would happen?
The same thing would come.
Yeah.
I think.
The next level will fill in, and it'll start right all over again.
Until Jesus comes back, it's doomed to repeat.
Let me just say, hold on. Let me just say, I fear that we will be invaded.
Oh yeah.
Because there are some powerful nations that are waiting on the opportunity, that are smacking their. Okay.
I know.
So I kind of have a feeling that that's part of the reason why the Lord has tarried on. We've all wanted that to happen. We've all wanted all these people to go down. But the Lord knows things that we don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? And He might see in the future that if it did happen today, that worse would come in on the heel of it. So we have to trust Him with the timing. That's why we have to trust God with the timing of these things. As much as I want to see these people burn, and I do.
They'll have their day.
They'll have their day.
It's not for us to determine.
Verse 17. Blessed are you, O land, when your king is the son of nobles, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. Because of laziness, the building decays, and through idleness of hands, the house leaks. Again, these are on surface level truisms, but they're speaking of greater events, greater philosophies. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. Lord. Anyway, do not curse the king even in your thought. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom, for a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. So we didn't curse nobody today. Do what?
Because the birds are robots.
Their birds are all robots now. We don't know. Whatever.
You should have added that one right at the end.
I should have. Yep.
Maybe not all the birds, but the pigeons are suspicious. They just be hanging out.
Bobbing. They just bobbing, hanging out, the pigeons. All right. Well, that was fun. That was fun. Conspiracy night.
So is that Ecclesiastes for one more week?
One more week of Ecclesiastes.
You won't be here.
Dang it.
You're going to miss Songs of Solomon.
Well, hold on. We'll figure it out. Okay, so where's my thing? All right, everybody comment and let me know if you followed. Let me know if you're offended. Let me know if you don't like what I said. Let me know what you think. Ask questions. Maybe don't write it, because if you write it, I don't know. I've already said a lot of things. I didn't tell you the other nation involved besides the United States of America, but it is a prominent one in the news right now.
I'm certain.
Love, love, love. Goodbye.